Okay, so are we ready, set, Madam Chair?
I'm ready.
Okay, so we're going to tackle the OLM budget first, or the governor's suggestions for the OLM budget. Let's see, Jim Tamburo, John Harnick, welcome.
Thank you.
Say hi.
Thank you.
Introduce your team, maybe.
Okay, will do. Thank you, Representative Terziak. Well, good morning, Senator Ross as well. They're members of the committee. We're happy to be here today. We have a number of folks, as you can see, online with us. Great staff from OLM and OFA as well. So we're excited to provide you with information today. I see Steve Hernandez is here as well from the commission. So welcome, Steve. And I do like to throw a little more kudos out there. I don't know if she gets enough of this, but the work that the administrator for the Appropriations Committee has done, Susan Keene, has been unbelievable, and along with our IT department, and work done from the nonpartisan staff to make these virtual hearings and meetings possible has been incredible, and it's led a lot by Susan Keene. So just want to recognize her as a wonderful job that she does.
Yes. Yep.
So we have with us today, John Harnick is here. He's our financial administrator, and he'll be helping me answer some questions, as well as Susan Keene, who is our accounting supervisor and does a great job with our budget, and a number of other folks online here to help us out if we need any answers to any questions. So we're ready for you.
Okay.
Questions? Is that where we are, Representative Terziak?
Or do you guys have comments on the governor's suggested changes in your budget, or shall we see if we have any questions without any comments?
Well, we're ready to answer questions if you'd like to proceed.
Okay. Well, gang.
So
Senator?
I'm going to start then.
Yes, please.
Last session, we put in some language relative to salaries and moving them forward. And so I had statutory language in that I checked to make sure. Is there a regulation that requires the sign off on the 4 leaders or 3 of the 4 leaders on general practices within legislative management? Or is it a practice? What is it? How do I get beyond it? Because I want to get rid of it.
Yeah, there is a section in the employee handbook, section 5.3 regarding salary increases, that does say the Personnel Policy Subcommittee of the Joint Committee on Legislative Management may authorize general wage increases. So combine that with the historical data here of anyone that's sat in my chair has always needed approval from leadership to do anything regarding salaries, promotions, hiring, terminations, things along that line.
I don't care about the promotions, terminations, and that kind of thing. But when the legislature makes an approval, votes on it, 186 of us vote for a certain thing, and it seems to me that we should comply with that directive. And so I'm still working on that to make sure that that happens. I brought forward my displeasure last year with the Speaker of the House, who was the 4th person that would not sign off on it, is my understanding, because I talked with Senator Looney also. But it doesn't make sense to me that we should hold up on one group when the rest of the state workforce is getting paid whatever they're getting paid. And the Secretary of the Office of Policy Management gave between 5 and 10% out, and now is poaching staff out of OFA, OLR, and LCO to work over there. And so that makes it very difficult for us, because we count on all of you nonpartisan staff to A, make us safe, and B, keep us informed. And I'm regularly sending over requests for more information, in particular for OLR and OFA. So I just am, I'm just slightly annoyed that we can't seem to get beyond this. So just wanted to sort of say that for the record, because it seems to me the employee handbook doesn't trump state statute. And I just want to say that, Jim, because, I know how frustrated I get with this particular situation. How many positions are not filled in the umbrella of legislative management? OLR, LCO, OFA,
Yeah.
Capitol Police. Do we know how many are?
Yeah, right now, Senator, we have approximately 20 vacancies. We've had some for a while, some we don't necessarily, we kind of, as they come up, we look at them to determine which we need to fill immediately, which ones we can hold off on.
Right.
So currently we have 20. Do anticipate that we do have approximately 100 people eligible to retire effective next year. So we do anticipate taking a hit at that point as well.
Right.
But we are in the midst of strategizing with refilling those positions, especially some of the key positions that we think we may lose.
So I know that Steve is on right now. Do you know if his 4 vacancies are in the process of being filled? Seeing as we had a huge problem at FAC the other day based on on a number of things, but that was one of the FAC actions that we took, and we supported it. But it seems to me that we're not only with the number of people that we're going to see retire, we can't afford to continue to leave these positions vacant across the board, not just in legislative management, but we're going to not even have anybody have the ability to talk to the people they're replacing, because we're not filling some of the positions. So.
Yeah, Senator Steve and I have spoken a few occasions in the last couple of weeks, and we are working on putting things together to send down to leadership for approval. I've had discussion with Chief of Staff, and we're confident that if the board with those vacancies,
So let me just ask that again, Jim. So then maybe I'm misunderstanding, but is it also a problem not just with salaries, but filling positions, that the 4 leaders won't sign off on filling the positions if we have approved a position count in the in legislative management? I know you're on here somewhere. I was just looking at, there you are.
Yeah, there are occasions when, depending upon the office and the situation, whether we get approval or not.
So for example, let's just focus on that particular one right now. One, I'm not sure that the $9 million is an achievable amount out of your budget. I don't think that that's an achievable ability for us to cut the legislative management budget by $9 million. Do you know what percentage that is of the budget? And then I'll get back to the women, the Commission on the World.
Okay. John, is that something you can jump in on?
Yeah, I think in what we submitted in writing is our testimony is there. I think there was some confusion as to actually how much OPM is trying to take out of our budget. It is actually, we had submitted in FY22 a budget of $78 million, and the recommendation from the governor is $59 million, the difference of $18 million, almost $19 million. And then in 23, it's 82 million is what was submitted. 61 was what was recommended from the governor. So they cut us by over $20 million in the second year. So the reduction of what we've asked for is pretty substantial. The way OPM showed it in the budget book was a little bit unique. What they did was they showed it in some.
Is that a new way to say, John? Is that a new way to say disingenuous?
Possibly. Yeah, I can't speak for OPM. I just looked at this, and because what they did is, even in section C, which is I think where everybody focuses, is where what the requested was by SID versus what the governor's proposed is. And even there, the baseline number starting in of our current FY21 budget got cut by $3 million by OPM. So already we started with in their mind, what they presented on that page was less than what we were issued or authorized for. So it just, 9 million is about half. It's really 18 what we asked for. So.
All right, thank you for that. And back to the Commission on the World, we used to have a lot of different separate commissions, and now we only have one. And so when 50% of the staff is not there, that makes it a little hard for them to do the work that we as legislators are requiring them to do. So that's my concern. And truth be told, I haven't been talking with Steve about this. I have just noticed that we are not filling positions across the board, whether it's in the legislature or judicial or the executive branch. And I think that that's a huge mistake because when we see the number of people retire, and they are going to retire, we're going to have a huge problem with historical knowledge and making the same mistakes. It's what this administration did with MSP the other day, thinking that we forgot what happened in 2017, 3 years ago, to then say, we're going to cut this. Well, we all know what happened. So I just really think that we have to, my opinion, Jim, is that we have to fill some of the positions and try to continue to work on filling those positions. And they're cheaper than a current worker because they start out at far less. Their benefits are far cheaper. So across the board, they're a lot cheaper to have on board than current employees, but they have to pick up some of the information. I have one more question. Well, actually, I have two questions. One on Capitol Police. Do you feel that Capitol Police have all of the tools necessary to handle this somewhat difficult time frame? I think they've done a great job. I'm not a huge fan of walking through metal detectors. It reminds me of being in corrections. But in today's world, I guess that's where we are. Do they need other tools that we haven't given them yet?
Yeah, Senator, thank you for that question, because it addressed an issue that we are concerned about. So I met with Chief Casanova, who's done an analysis of what he thinks we need to be successful here. There's a number of changes he has proposed to us that we are currently reviewing. It includes, additional officers, it includes additional resources, including things like a new radio system. We've asked them to do a lot more over the last year than we have ever, probably, including going out to legislator homes in different towns. One of the things that they discovered is that their radio system only works in the Hartford area, so there's no way of getting a hold of their officers if they're out of town, outside of a cell phone, obviously. So there are things like that. There's body cams, there's car cameras. There's a number of different things that he has proposed that we are currently reviewing to determine what we need to move forward. But there is a substantial amount of things, and including that radio system that I think is pretty important for him.
Okay, so are we going to be able to get a list of that to make sure that we're incorporating some of the needs in the budget? That would be helpful.
Yep, we'll get that over to you. Yeah, absolutely.
So to be very clear, I'm a voice of one, but I'm not interested in cutting the legislature by 9 million or 18 million or 20 million. So I'd like to know where you need the dollars so that we're putting them in the right buckets. My last question for now, but probably never my last question. So another thing that I'm looking at doing is to take down some of the statues around the building. And I'm not actually interested in ridding the world of the statues. I would want them to go to a museum. We have a museum that we're responsible for right now, and it seems to me that we could do that. So this is another thing that I'm going to be working to put in statute, the removal of the statues, so that we can maintain, So everybody, I think everybody probably knows, I'm looking to take down the John Mason statue. I've talked to all 5 Native American tribes in the state of Connecticut. I have a letter from, I've talked to them about several different things. I have in writing that they all think that the statue could come down. And again, I'm not looking to dispose of it. I'm looking to put the historical context of someone who in today's world would be guilty of crimes. They would be visiting Sweden, for crying out loud. So I don't, when he destroyed the 3 Pequot villages and then burned alive the men, women, and seniors in the one in Mystic, and then sold off into slavery a host of other Pequots, I think that that's something that we should do. But if I put it in the statute to remove statues, and I appreciate the work that you did, and if the people of the committee would like to see a copy of the reports that legislative research did relative to the statues that are around the building, I'll send it to them. So I'm very interested in removing that one, and there may be others. I'm waiting for other groups to weigh in on them. But for the John Mason statue, that's the one that I would like to see come down first and foremost, and take the statue, put it in a museum, and tell the history of what he did, all sides of what he did, so that we absolutely know the things that happened. But if I put it in statute, what do you need to do it? Because clearly there's a problem with salaries, and we have to figure out what we're doing, because we're going to lose more and more staff, and I don't blame them for leaving. We lost Ann to DOT. We lost a couple of people to OPM, and it's relative to the fact that they can count on a salary over there that they cannot count on in our group. And we need good staff, because they outman us on at least a 10 or 20 to 1 with someone that can give us information. So, I think that that's something that has to happen. And I'm shortly going to have some of the other groups signing on to some of this stuff, just because I think that doesn't seem to be a way for us to get around this.
Mm-hmm. Well, we agree with you. Our staff is tremendous, and we are facing challenges right now to keep some of them, as we've seen in the last few months, specifically from OFA. But we have provided 2 of the 4 increases that you proposed and we proposed in statute, and we're hopeful to get 1 more in there. We hope. So we'll see how it goes, but we are constantly discussing that. So but it is, again, something that, I do need to work with leadership to get that completed. I would do the same thing probably with the statute.
Okay, well, I'm just going to tell you, I'm not going to wait another 10 years to get it done. I've waited 2 years, and I had 3 out of the 4 leaders. You're never going to have everybody on board. It's not a good policy or practice to have one person hold up everything when it has general approval, whether it's the salaries or and in particular, if 186 of us vote for something, that seems to me to be tacit approval by the leaders. So, if they approve it, if the budget gets passed, that's tacit approval by the leaders. It doesn't make sense to me why we're holding up some of those. Are there monies to carry forward this year to take care of removing the statues? Is there carry forward money available?
John, you want to address that?
Well, I think in our budget projection, we could potentially carry money forward. We have not had much success in the last 3 or 4 years in carrying money forward. We used to do that. That used to be a regular practice a few years ago, but unfortunately it takes a lot of interesting twists. Even when we have carry forward money, sometimes the budget implementer has language that it still has to be approved by OPM, and then we kind of get lost in the weeds, as you can imagine with that. So
So we can make the language really clear, John, though.
correct.
So
And to be honest with you, Senator, I think in our written testimony, I think we made a recommendation to carry forward the redistricting funds, because that had always been the practice. The last two redistricting cycles was any unspent funds would carry to the next year, and unfortunately that hasn't happened in the last 2 years. So yeah, that was actually a recommendation of ours.
Well, I think even more than that, carry forward, we should carry forward money to take care of a few of the things. Like, I'd like to understand what cost does it have to buy the new radio system? What cost is it to take down the statues that I'm going to put in the legislative language to do so, just to let everybody know, so you can all go tell all the 4 leaders that I'm going to do this because I'm tired of having the discussion, and tell them that I'm looking forward to putting raises in for the staff to bring them up in comparison to other executive branch agencies. I got to go take some eggs off the stove. So Pete, you got this now? You can ask your questions.
I'm feeling pretty good. I started out with my opening remarks saying I generally don't feel driven by the governor's suggestions on how to save money in what I consider more of our part of the budget than many parts of the budget.
Yeah, Representative, I may just remind you too, is that we don't have access to a lot of the funds that OPM does. So that's why our budget may seem a bit high, but there again, we work without a safety net, where OPM, you know, they just have a salary adjustment fund that's probably $250 million, which is like four times our total budget. So, you know, they're again, they have other options where our branch of government does not have that. So, you know, with the we estimated a worst case scenario, if all the people that are eligible to retire could retire in the next 2 years, that would be slightly over $3 million in retirement payouts. So that is built into our budget. And the likelihood, I think Jim had already mentioned that at least there's 100 people that more than likely could go, and most of them will go in the first year of the biennium, which is FY22. And we put in just a little over $2 million for that expense.
Good, thank you. I agree. I think it's generally agreed. We're going to see a lot of retirements based on baby boomers' age, and also based on we have the change in retiree benefits coming up that people will like to get out the door before that closes. So yes, we're
Yeah, if I
very
can get back to the vacancies for this, we certainly have support from the leadership to fill positions when we need to right now. For example, OFA and LCO employees, we were able to fill positions. And then moving forward, I've talked to them about it already, that we anticipate losing quite a few people, and that they are supportive of us. Hopefully as some type of overlap, so that, you know, somebody coming in from the outside perhaps gets an understanding from the person that's there currently as we move forward here. So I'm confident we'll be able to do that in the next couple of years, and our staff whole and able to continue moving forward with the knowledge that these folks can pass on to them.
Thank you. That would be good. We often think of it's okay when hirings aren't happening as quick as they can because it's a little bit of play then in the budget. But that's fine when you're talking about, I'm an old Demas hand, if you're talking about mental health workers or even nurses. Many people have these jobs. You're fitting into a system where other people are playing those roles. That's not true when it comes to you folks. Quite often there's one person, maybe another person with part of the responsibilities, and that's it. There is nobody else in the office handling benefits here or whatever the responsibilities are there. So we need to stay on our toes about this. Thank you.
Yeah, and we saw this, you know, back in 2009 when we had a large retirement from quote unquote the last golden handshake. And we had a similar scenario. We had a lot of folks walk out the door that had 30 plus years of service. So we had worked on it back then to try to create some kind of continuity. We'll do that now. We'll continue to do that now as we move forward, anticipating with retirements as well.
Good. Okay. Welcome back, Senator.
I'm back. I had to go get my hard-boiled eggs before they were exploding around the kitchen, so. I make them for my grandson, so.
Nice. Very nice. Any other questions that we can answer for you folks?
No, but I think we need from John, we need to understand how much, where do we need dollars? How are we gonna fix the budget for the, if you could get that for us, John. If we're looking at what OPM wanted to do we just restore all the dollars? Do you need it in different spots? And on the carry forward, what can we get on the carry forward for the, I like radio systems, so I think that that's important, but you guys have an idea on what the most important things are. I need to know what you think on removing the statues, how much it's gonna cost, because I'm gonna put money in for that. All right?
Yeah, we have estimates on those things. Both those items can get to you.
Okay, great.
Great.
I'm all set.
Okay. Are we set with that part of the budget and ready to move on to the auditors? Or should we be doing Steve, there you are, Steve. Do we have more questions for the commission since Steve's in the room?
I just want his 4 positions filled.
Good.
That's all I want.
Steve, is there anything else you want from us?
Well, thank you so much. And I'd like to second that. One of the things that my commitment to you has been and will continue to be as I've served in this position, in that we don't just occupy positions at the commission. This really is about serving our constituencies across the state. And, it's not lost, at least on me, that our vacancies are our children's policy position, children and families, Asian and Pacific Islanders policy position, seniors and the aging policy position, and our family leadership policy position, which is what runs PLTI in the state. To your reference about last week, Senator Austin, the transfer that we required was to actually continue to do the work of PLTI contractually, because we don't have a full-time position that could be done in-house. So I also am confident that we will be able to hire relatively soon because of the approval that we have most recently received. But I'm hoping that the work continues, and the work is gravely important to our constituents. So we look forward to continuing to working with you.
Yeah, and I have a lot of bills in this year on equity and equality for the Native American Indigenous people in Connecticut, so.
And to your point about, the Commission of the World, we do consider our jurisdiction to cover the Native and original peoples of the state of Connecticut. And in fact, we are holding a series with the Native peoples to discuss their relationship to the state, their vision for themselves and the future of the state. So thank you for that.
It's 11 o'clock. Peter, are we up to the next group?
I think we are. Is John
All right.
Garagosa?
They maybe do it 11:15.
Oh, I don't know.
Now let me check that.
They are supposed to start at 11:15, but they are in the waiting room.
God bless them.
Your auditors are there.
That's right.
If I could make one final comment.
Please do.
Just on the last page of our testimony that we submitted, there's information regarding the radio system that we want to buy into with the state police. Jim talked about it a short time ago with an upgrade to our current system that only allows us to do the greater Hartford area. And what it would be is it's explained there, but essentially it's only what we would need is to buy the equipment to hook into their system. We wouldn't have to buy a separate system. It's just what we would need to outfit our officers and our vehicles in order to tap into that. And then we also, although this may not be totally appropriate for this committee, we are going to be asking for a bit of an increase in the Ctn Operating Funds. That's the revenue transfer that those of you that are familiar with that, and we're just asking that we increase the transfer by $100,000 a year. I think it's 2.6 right now. We're looking to go 2.7. And then there's what we also put in, and there again, this might be a budget implementer item, but we've been trying to, DAS has advertising requirements that are much updated compared to ours. What we're currently doing is any bid that we put out over $50,000 has to be advertised in at least 4 newspapers, and which gets very expensive. That runs anywhere from $800 to $1,000 for one day to submit the RFP in the newspaper. So the requirement at DAS is that they just post it to their procurement portal, which is what we do that currently as well, but we also have this additional requirement that we have to put in the newspapers. And DAS, I think, got that waived maybe a decade ago. So we're asking for similar treatment. And then lastly, one thing that just cropped up, and it's not a huge dollar amount, but it's more of an administrative nightmare, is last year the state police started charging us for doing background checks. And so what we have to do now is every time they do a background check for us, it's $75, which in and of itself doesn't sound like a lot of money. But then whenever we have a new vendor come on board, like SMG, that have a number of employees, it gets to be several $1,000s a year, probably $5,000 to $10,000 a year. So we're just wondering, and like I said, that was a recent development that started, I think, in 2019. So we don't know why all of a sudden they started charging us, but nonetheless, we're hoping that maybe that could be addressed at some point as well. But I'd be happy to forward this information on to you, Senator Austin, and anything else you need, we'd be happy to provide.
Please do. And the equipment, what is the dollar amount in that equipment?
For the radio system, we're estimating it to be about 400,000.
Okay. And that would be for the vehicles and handheld?
Yes. What we did was in advance of just right after all of the events that started occurring, December, January, we actually sought out the state police, and they were very helpful in identifying what we needed. So that was the information I got back from Capitol Police.
Okay. And I just want to let you know that I just got an email from someone who's listening to our YouTube and said that they express support for removing certain statues from the Capitol to different locations because it's past time to recognize the harm that some of these historical figures inflicted on other humans. So maybe we can start getting a few more people writing in, and I'll have them write into the legislative leaders also. Thank you.
I guess my one last point would be that, OPM requires us to submit our budget in September or so. We do so each year. And, as John and I were joking about it recently, the only thing that their budget resembled to our budget was the name of the agency. I mean, we put in all this work, Sue Ski and everybody puts in all this work to put our budget in, and they didn't take any of our numbers, just kind of did what they wanted to do. And that's why you end up with, a $20 million difference. So
They certainly appreciate the talent that's here because they keep poaching our staff.
Exactly.
So
anyway, well, so thank you, everybody. We appreciate the questions, and we'll get you everything we get you this week. And and we'll continue to work moving forward on those initiatives that we discussed.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from folks? Good. Okay, then shall we move on? Senator, are we ready to ask the auditors in?
I am.
Okay,
All right, thank you very much.
Take care.
thank you. Thank
I'm
you.
thinking that you're going to ask all the questions next time, Peter.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Thank
you
you.
missed my opening remarks where I basically said what you already know. This is a budget that comes under us. We're responsible for, and it's nice that the governor makes suggestions for saving money, but many people make suggestions for saving money too. We have to not lose sight of what we're trying to get accomplished here. So thank you. So basically, I'm pretty easygoing when it comes to the questions. Yes, thank you.
Me too.
Welcome to our auditor, John Garagosa. How are you, sir?
Doing okay. How you doing?
I'm always well, you know that. How's your department?
Well, you know, we're all suffering from a little bit of a shock about the death of Rob Keane. So that's
That's what I was thinking of, yeah.
yeah. So it's been a major shock to our agency. And, you know, my colleagues around the country always ask us, how does it work to have two auditors from the same office at different parties? And I'd always tell them it only worked because we got along, you know, and we did. And, you know, from our appearances before you, we saw that. And Rob and I didn't always agree, but we always found a way to reach consensus, which is what we have to do, which is what your charge is for us. He really loved his service in the state Senate, and he loved the legislative process. So he loved interacting with you. And I think we all got a kick out of him coming before this subcommittee to beg for money every year for those of us that served with him. But
I'm not proud, but I mentioned it before when I heard of him passing, I mentioned that before I even mentioned him being a good father and the loss for his kids. But yes, for a man who spent his Senate career saying, why do you want to spend that? It was a nice change.
So I ask you all to keep his kids in, you know, your thoughts and prayers. So.
Yep, thank you.
So you know, we submitted testimony, and I'll kind of summarize it, but it's, you know, we listened in a little bit on the testimony from before. So the good news is last year, about 95% of us work remotely. And we did that. We actually issued more reports in 2020 than we did in 2019. We issued 71 in 2020 and 53 in 2019. We also produced an extra 6,000 hours in audit work. So the remote working has gone very well, actually better than we ever expected. You know, we took a conservative approach to our budget, not knowing what the future would hold once we all came home. As a result, we have a significant lapse in personal service in this year's budget. We limited our hiring and didn't replace former employees or promote others in their positions. And we had several one-time savings for accruals and mileage and the like. And then we didn't bring on as many interns as we usually do. We usually bring on 4 to 6 interns every 6 months. It's a 6-month paid internship, and it's a great experience for the students. And we have them do real work, so it's not a make work kind of thing. They're only brought on if they're wanted by supervisors. In addition, we're having 3 long-term employees retiring on April 1st. And we just lost a newer employee last week that just came on about 11 months ago. He went to work for the executive branch at the Department of Revenue Services. Now, when we first looked at the governor's budget, we thought that the raises were, well, at least the raise in the first year and the raise in the annual increment in the second year. However, we later discovered that they weren't added into our bottom line, but instead we were told they were put into the reserve for salaries accounts. So not only does it not include the funds that's in the governor's budget, but it doesn't include the raise and the annual increment in the first year. And if that money were added in, at least the partial money, it could be reduced from the reserve for salaries accounts accordingly. In addition, we estimate we need an additional $500,000 to pay for significant retirements due to the CBAC agreement and funding for interns and mileage. So therefore, we're asking to increase our PS line item to 13,380,102 in fiscal year 22 and 13,766,507 in fiscal year 23. Like legislative management, our office is responsible for funding all employee raises and payouts for vacation and sick time. And we only provide raises in our office when other legislative employees receive them. We follow whatever the legislative branch does. We've always managed our budgets responsibly and prudently. And the additional funding you gave us in the last biennium allowed us to restore some of our positions we lost over time. And it was approximately 18 positions over time since 2011. As you know, our budget is 98% personal services. So we need to retain funding in order to complete our work. When we release older audits, it's because we didn't have the resources necessary to conduct the work. Auditing is labor intensive. Last year I talked about this, and the report we did for DSS and the VAO, the emergency transport outfit, that took 3,000 hours to complete that audit, and it's the equivalent of 2 full-time positions. And as a result of we had 59 recommendations in that report, and we're happy to report that DSS and VAO incorporate many of those into their new contract and their processes. So that's the kind of impact we want to have on the system if possible. But we need the staff to do it. Now, we do think there's a possible carry forward, possible of $500,000 for that vacation and sick leave payouts because it's a one-time payout. In addition, we used to lease our computers along with legislative management, and we did that until 2017 when we couldn't enter the fifth year of a lease. Our auditors need, more demanding computer systems, and we decided that the most prudent way at that time was to buy computers. And so we bought them in 2017, I think, and we had an FAC transfer in order to do that. So therefore, we would ask for $150,000 in the second year of the biennium in OE to buy those computers if possible. And again, that might be accomplished through a carry forward also. And that's all I had for now, but just in terms of, we have to grow our ability to, in light of vulnerability and security issues with IT, we need to increase our oversight of the state's IT system through audits and security checks. In addition, we want to do more performance auditing. And, I put a box there with what our request is down below. And I also, obviously, performance audits that we're working on at this time, starting in the near future.
I will respond. So
that's all I had.
John, do you have any idea, or is it just flat out too early to know what's going on with Rob's position?
Oops, we lost you, John. You're muted.
You're muted.
I'm sorry. I should be used to this by now.
None of us are.
In the case of the auditor, Republican leaders nominate that position. And I have no word of when that's going to happen, but I assume it'll happen this session.
In regards to quasi-publics, do you have the authority to audit quasi-publics right now? I know you did do the Port Authority, but that was with legislative push. Do you right now, and I most recently, the Contract Standards Board asked for an opinion from the Attorney General relative to them being able to review quasi-publics, and it doesn't appear to me that the statutory language revolving around most of the quasi-publics is user-friendly towards oversight. do you feel that you have the statutory language necessary to review any quasi-public out there?
Well, we have auditing in the quasi-public statute. There's some auditing. We do kind of limited generally as our normal procedures related to procurement, affirmative action, and a couple other things. But, you know, in the case of the lottery, the Port Authority, we never had any problems getting any information we needed in order to accomplish what we needed to do.
Okay, because I want to make sure that we're not going to head, but we are making some changes to both general quasi-public language and to the Port Authority. So I just want to figure out if this is something that people that you feel that you have the ability to get in. I don't know if you saw the Attorney General's opinion on the Contract Standards Board.
I did.
All right.
Yeah, we will, you know, obviously, and we work with the Contracting Standards Board. As a matter of fact, we testified before them on the issue of CRDA and the stadium related to an audit we did. And we have the authority, we believe, in beyond what we do normally with quasis. And that's evident from our recent reviews of Port Authority and the lottery. You know, we did something extensively different than what is a normal audit. And we do audit all the quasi-publics every 2 years, or that's what we try to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know our audit of the lottery will be out in the next couple of weeks.
All right. So that's what I have. Peter, do you have any questions?
No, I want to give Representative Wilson a chance. He mentioned earlier concerns about follow through from agencies with audit suggestions. Yes, Representative?
Yes,
Did I
thank
get
you.
that?
And I apologize. I was in another meeting as we all are trying to keep our ears on a number of things. So I really appreciate you being here, John. So my concern was about the 336,000 of rescissions, and it relates to when I read the audits. In many audits, I see multiple comments and findings, and I see multiple comments and findings that are repetitive, audit after audit, with you know, no corrections. I'm not saying that there's never a correction, because sometimes clearly there has been, and it just doesn't seem right to me that your budget should be reduced. And I know that's probably weird coming from a Republican, but you know, my point is that if we needed to put money someplace in the budget, it certainly doesn't need to be removed from here, but at least retained in here, so that you folks can do the job. And then, you know, how do we get departments and agencies, for lack of another word, I'll just say, be more respectful to you and your findings?
You know, sometimes some of those repeat recommendations have to do with then going. We actually go to the General Assembly to change the law. Sometimes we get a new system in order to process certain things.
I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your name, Representative.
Somebody's got it.
Can we get people to mute, please? It's impossible to hear.
Yeah, hang on.
Wait a minute, it's me.
Thank you.
So,
Okay.
you know, there was legislation years ago to mandate agencies to comply with our recommendations, and we didn't necessarily support that, because there's factors why agencies can't enact our recommendations, especially in this particular year where everything kind of fell off the table and nothing happened. But oftentimes we say, you know, they're not submitting a report that they don't submit, but it's in the statute. We tell them to change the statute and get rid of that reporting requirement, or combine reporting requirements if that's necessary. And I said sometimes they need some sort of, may need IT equipment or other things in order to accomplish it. You know, years ago, DAS, we said was not collecting, you could be collecting more. And we said they should hire more people in that case, if they wanted to enhance their collections. So there's external factors why agencies don't always enact recommendations. One of the things that we changed in our reports as a result of our public hearings years ago, and it was because legislators asked for, is every report tells you whether a finding is a repeat finding or not, and how many times it's been repeated. That is typical in the federal auditing that we do. Those also, that lists, repeat recommendations, but that's a new thing that we started doing as a result of public hearings that we had with you to hopefully, maybe give the agencies a little bit of a nudge too.
Well, I appreciate, the opportunity to just get on the record for my feelings regarding this process. And I'm not sure what the answer is because it seems like we're always either moving the cheese or robbing Peter to pay Paul. And how we determine priorities is where somehow we have to find some kind of consensus so that everybody feels like they're getting their fair shake. And to me, the audit process is it's not a fair shake issue. It's a mandatory issue. If we were in the private sector, as I stated earlier, I was treasurer of the town of Litchfield for 30 years. And in the Government Finance Officers Association across the state, I think they give awards every year for the towns that have the best audits. And usually the best audits are the ones where corrections have been made based on prior year comments. So why can't we do that at the state of Connecticut? And that's just an open-ended rhetorical question. I know we can't answer it sitting here today. I just felt that I needed to say something about it. So I appreciate your comments very much. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair.
Great. Thank you. Anything else, folks? Senator, anything else?
I don't have anything else right now. I'm trying to remember to mute and unmute.
Doing great there. Then we may be done. What do you think, folks? Senator?
It's great to see everybody.
It's good to see you. Thank you very much.
Nice to see you.
Although I saw you in the grocery store yesterday.
That's right. That's right. And the lines were just too long for me to join them again, since I had run back in from my car saying, oh my God, Pat only asked me to get one thing and that's what I forgot. So it goes. If that's her only complaint with me, wouldn't I be the luckiest guy? Thank you. But great. So are we all set then, Senator? Do we want to, yes, so we can say goodbye to our guests. Do we want to, among ourselves, just, prick our fingers and take the blood oath that we are going to stand fast on, we like this budget the way we like it? Thank you, Governor, for your suggestions, but
Exactly.
yes, okay.
We'll see you later.
Okay, thank you very much. Yep. Great. So will we be Don, Chris, Neil, we'll have a little bit more discussion when you put our fondest dreams into writing and give us some numbers for those. But I think we're generally agreed on where we want to see the agencies that come under legislative subcommittee going. Thank you. Okay, anything else anybody would like to make sure we follow up on?
We may want to have a discussion of how you want the governor took a lot of the cuts as a lapse. We may want a discussion of how you want that represented in the sheets.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yes, thank you very much. Okay. Yeah. Feel free to make suggestions. I appreciate that. Please. Senator Austin's the one with the steel trap mind. No.
I really don't think I have a steel trap mind. I think I just
What?
remember some things a little bit at a time.
Well,
I keep
better
telling
than-
people I'm just a simple country girl with a community college education.
good for you. I'm a big community college fan too. Okay, great. Then are we done for today?
No, I just need to know when we're going to get that. Don, do we have the OFA analysis of the contract?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's been, Sue Keen emailed out to all members.
Thank you.
Great.
Appreciate it. All right, guys.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you. Bye-bye.